Nectaria, this one is for you. I am going to show, this is the back, the stamped portion of this particular Heartwave freshie, and then this is the front part of it. So these are going to be very different in how I would choose to be able to paint them. The top one is much easier because the design is all raised, versus this one because it's an actual like stamp that the sun portion here and where the waves come up and around, those are impressed down into it. So you have to work a little bit harder, I feel like, on the back side than you do on the front. But because I can paint the back side and then flip it over and be able to paint the front right away, if you choose to, I'm going to do it that way. The only reason why I would say I don't suggest immediately like painting the back and then turning over and doing the front is because if you like to pick it up and look at it to do the front, I sometimes end up then putting my fingers on the back of it. But you totally could. I would just suggest that you like put it down on that surface and like don't touch it. Like if you have a wheelie thingy, whatever, turntable thing, then do that instead. But I really like to get up close as I'm doing these types of things. So the paints that I'm going to use are going to be Snow White from Apple Barrel, and Cloudless from Apple Barrel, Caribbean, again, Apple Barrel, and then 2 blue. You really, like just use whatever that you have. But the tips of the waves tend to be white. So, or as it's like, crashing over. So I like to start off there with them. And I do think you use a little bit more paint on the back of them because the backs, are not necessarily as perfect. So you've got to kind of get like into all of the little beady things, which also makes blending more difficult. So we are going to start off here. And notice, like, I'm not trying to make this like be perfect. It's got the little waves in there because it really doesn't matter. All right, so just the 3 of those. I always have a paper towel next to me as I'm working. And if you find that your paint is coming out, or like you're really having to press really hard, then I would suggest to thin out your paint. I did purchase the Floetrol that Robin French-Smith had suggested in her video, but you do get a gigantic bottle, which I will probably never go through. And I'm currently looking for like a squeezer nozzle to be able to use with it, because when you're putting it into the paint, there can be like some issues with that. But it works really good. And I have a paint shaker because of me being a nail tech, so I like to use that. Because your arms get really, really tired with having it, especially if you're doing, like I just did them all right from the beginning, essentially, and thinned them all out. So I choose to do the dark next just because I want to break this up into 4s. So visually, it gives me a little bit better visual to break it up into 4s. And then I'm not starting like going right up to here. I'm kind of starting where the paint's going to be like thickest, and then working up to the other one. And with this particular technique, I am going to go all the way up to the other one. With a different one, I don't go so close or like, on top of it. It all has to do with the brush strokes essentially, or what tool that you're using. So there's that one. And then we'll finish off with the cloudless. And like I said, for this I am doing thicker. You kind of just have to gauge how well your freshie was baked on the back side of it to say how much you're gonna use. Because as you're doing this technique, it is gonna remove some of the paint. Okay. And I want to, just because there's like those gaps there where the beads are sunk down in, I kind of want to fill that. So I would say just with this tool by itself, if you wanted to come in and just go back and forth on here, you are going to get a fade. I'm going to clean it off before I do the next color and just work the needle back and forth, because glitter hides everything. So even though, if you can see like the kind of inconsistent situation in there, as soon as I put glitter on that, you're not going to see any of that. It is going to look like a beautiful fade. Oops. Where's my other capping thing? For these ones, I'm just going to take and work like back and forth on it. I'm going slightly down and then slightly up. You can, once you get better at this, like work back and forth with it, as long as you're, you know, not moving the brush part too much, because I'm trying to avoid getting it onto that center line so I don't have as much cleanup later. So working like in one direction and then the other direction if you want to clean it up. This technique gives you a much smoother finish. And then I'm going to clean up in between colors. I should have also wet this brush down. So this particular brush is not the best quality brush. It was one that I had gotten for nail art stuff, and because it was not a really good quality, I then decided to not use it for nail art. But I always save things because you can use them for crafting. So I would say if you really wanted to do a lot of this, I would actually go on to like a Nail Places website and be able to get one, because the ones that are meant for nail techs typically are a better quality bristle and things of that nature, because they vetted out these companies. So you're gonna have that little bit of, you know, extra stuff on there. I would not worry about it. I guess maybe I don't have to do this off camera. Grab a piece of paper, and now I am going to cake it with glitter. I do find that I like the more iridescent glitter better than just the solid white glitter, because it doesn't have as much of a shimmer to it. This is just like a jewelry thing. Okay, so this is what we're looking at this point. And if you remember this one that I just did with the needle, look how smooth that transition is. And then with this, once it's dry, because I have one, I don't know where I put it. I have like metal duckbill clips again because I do hair. So I take that metal duckbill clip because it's super fine. But you could take other thin metal tools as well. I wonder where in the heck I put that at. And you're gonna scrape off the excess. I find that if you take it off now, it can be a little bit messier versus it kind of just flakes off because of how thin it is on these edges if you just wait till everything is completely dry. Okay, I'm gonna blow this all off really quick and put this glitter back in, and then we're gonna do the yellow. I also have a little blower tool. It's like for a car vacuum cleaner, or some barbers use it for blowing off your neck after they get done with doing your trim. But it makes a lot of noise, so I don't want to use that for this. But it works really good to kind of get into all of the little creases of this. So now this is going to be the same exact technique-ish. I'm not going to like kind of go back and forth though. I'm going to go vertical with it. Making sure the paint is like actually in the tip of my nozzle. And then this one is like a funky one. So I'm just gonna kind of gauge-ish where I want that to be. Nothing specific. And unfortunately I wanted to make this one with just like the super sparkles from Nurture Soap, but because the bag had a little bit of green in it, it now kind of looks like it's glow in the dark instead of it being a nice pretty white. So I think I'm still gonna sell this one anyway though. And from here on out, I am going to label my little baggies with a permanent marker of the white one for sure. I don't think all the other colors, it really matters as much. But, you know, if you were really wanting a red and like the orange, then change the pigment just because it had some orange in there. I don't know. Still kind of figuring out the organization of this whole thing. So if you guys have any tips or tricks on how you deal with like your baggies and making sure that you don't cross over colors, because I really think white would be the biggest one. And let's say if you were doing black, like I have a really pretty color called black cherry, I think it is, blackberry maybe, from Nurture Soap. And that one also, you know, I wouldn't want it to be tinted with a different color, so I would be more careful with it. And I would also say, if you guys have different ways to be able to do ombres, then totally share it, because I am obsessed with them for sure. And when I've been showing my clients the freshies that I've been practicing with, they all really like and gravitate towards the ones that have that little bit more of a detail. And I personally don't think it takes that much more time to be able to do them, because this for me is like very relaxing, and I just sit and put a movie on and paint away. So honestly, even if it did take a longer amount of time, I personally wouldn't care. So I'm going to be a bad person to talk to about like money things with the whole thing. Okay, so this time I am going to very gently, because I want the orange to come up into the yellow, very gently stroke upwards into it. And again, because this one is not as good of a brush, it does have more like solid pieces instead of like just these light pieces or like super thin. Because you can even get these brushes from like Joann's and Michael's and things like that. So I would really look for one that does not have very much of an edge on it. I'll show you a little bit better because I gotta hurry up and get this done, because I've got my fan going because it is utterly freaking hot, even though I think it's like almost midnight right now. It is still unbearably hot, and I am having massive struggles with this. So I definitely have my fan on, but typically when I do this and it's not on camera, for one, it goes way faster, and I don't have to worry about it drying so much. And I kind of want to look like the sun is like burning. So I like, you know, these little individual strokes up here, which is why I'm trying to pull that orange up into the yellow. It's a little bit thick right here because it already kind of started to dry. So I'm just gonna like lightly tap it back out. And when I'm doing this with my fingers to scrape it out, I want to try to fan out the bristles in here. So because when they're wet, they want to kind of clump all together. So I'm taking my finger and kind of pulling them apart a little bit. And I'll show you a close-up before I do it. So again, not perfect in any way, shape, or form, okay? But when you cover things with glitter, I do think that that white glitter that's not iridescent, it does hide more, for sure. But I like the little bit of blingy. Okay, if you can see close up. And then I am not gonna like really blow on this like hardcore until it's totally completely dry. Then I will either take I have a fan brush like this and dust it off, or the blow dryer, blow gun, you know, whatever, and do that before I would hairspray it. Okay. Now, with this one, I definitely feel like because of the stamp, I got like a decent amount of edge and lip on there. So I don't think I will have any problems being able to flip this over, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to be gentle with the whole situation. So with this, I'm gonna try to make my brain focus on just turning this and not messing with the bottom. so that way the air can come up and dry from the bottom as I'm doing this whole thing. And we're gonna do some different techniques with this one, but same method of applying the paint. And because this is like such a smooth surface that, you know, you don't have to make it as thick. So not all the time that my needle is down there am I actually applying paint. I'm just kind of feeling it out. I know I'm gonna need a little bit more down here, but I'm starting the fade part with the tip of the nozzle. I hope my head is not in the way of this as I'm working. When I do nail art videos, I tend to do that and not even paying attention. Same thing, do the dark on the bottom. And I do think if your paint is too thick, it is also going to dry faster than what you want it to be. So I am definitely going to thin out my orange because I felt like it was just a little bit harder to get out of the bottle. I guess I probably shouldn't have come up that high, but once again, it doesn't matter because it's all gonna fade together and every wave is different anyway. So there's that. I really think I like the way that I made my base on the other one with having the freshie yellow behind the sun, because it made the creases really pretty. So right there I just dropped some more because it was like kind of a sunken in part. But it is a little bit more work to do the different colors with your freshie beads. So you gotta find out what works for you. Okay. That one probably a bit too much paint, so I'm gonna take some of that and bring it over here. It's definitely kind of thickens more so than what I intended it to be. Okay. So with this one, because it's on top, I feel like I can be a little bit more courageous with my brush, and I am going to like more so like really fast, like kind of go back and forth on this whole situation. Using kind of the platform of it being on top, or the raised part, you know, as the guide. And then the last one is where I'm gonna use like the foamy brush. Okay, because I didn't want that color to come up any higher, I wiped it off, and then now I'm bringing more of that light down into it. So just totally play with it visually until you get it to where you want it to be. If you feel like your paint was like a little bit too thin or something, and you want to really make sure that your glitter sticks onto it, I have literally just left it like this and put it somewhere else so that as much can sink into the paint as possible. So that's another thing if you feel like it's not going in as much. And here's that side. And still, I didn't do any damage to my back side. So now the next tool I am going to use, oh, I gotta blow that off, is going to be this sponge. So I'm going to wet it down and squeeze it out, because I like the paint brush wet. I like to do the same thing with this, but it doesn't need to be like dripping soaking at all. It's gonna water it down too much. And then I gotta, don't let me forget. You're watching a video. Don't let me forget. If I forget for some reason, to talk more of the details about that brush, please let me know. Okay, here we are with this one. Which I would also say that this yellow needs to be thinned out too, because I'm having to grip it just a little bit too much. Filling in that hole. Okay. And for this brush technique, I also want them to be touching, but not too much. Not like massively overlapping. And with this technique, because I also feel like the paint is thinner when you get done with it. But I also, there is a whole chunk, there we go, I think I got it, that just came out of there and was cramping my style. Okay, I'm making sure this is like a little bit damp. I'm gonna try to bring this up closer so you can see like the angle. I am only trying to tap on this lower portion here because I do not want to mess up my blue. And I'm just going to tap back and forth. You can also like come across this way, right? By doing the little like tappy kind of back and forth, it's gonna start that fade. But I really like the look of like the brush. And you can really kind of control how this is coming across. This one is, again, extra close. So I'm really making sure I'm just tapping that corner and kind of coming up so I don't get it into my blue. And tapping. So if you tap, it kind of creates these little swirly things versus if you brush, it creates more of those strokes. So more, you know, like a control, or gives you different options of what you want this to look like. And it is not that serious. So do what makes you happy and play with all the different techniques. Okay. I'm going to like sponge off my excess before I come into here, but because I still have to paint that other orange because I totally didn't think about it, I'm gonna hurry up and do that so I can sprinkle it with my glitter, because now I've just thinned out all of that paint by doing that. So I should have done this part first. Hurry. And you totally could, if you wanted to leave this solid and not put glitter on it, you could do a second layer of it too. After it's completely dried. And it will fill in any of the lighter spots with everything. This is like a crap ton of glitter because I didn't put that cappy thingy back on. Oops. Doesn't matter. With nails, I don't reuse glitter once it's been put onto the skin and all that stuff. So this would be like a really, really big no-no for me. Okay, so that is what that one looks like. Versus the other side, how this looks like it's, the sun is more on fire and going through it, if that makes any sense. So again, from this point, I am going to let that dry completely before I do anything else with it. And literally you just have to scrape off the, let me go grab one of the thingies, since I don't know where I put that clippy thingy, just to show you, because I do feel like the thinner metal is going to be the better way to go. So one of these little things, but this is super, super thin, and I don't think this is dry enough, but let me see. No, it's still kind of, it's still smearing it a little bit. and that one's scraping off a little bit more. But I really prefer, like, you really want to try to stay as clean as you can, because, you know, all of this equals more of your time. I don't feel like I do have these thinner of the makeup sponges, and I also have like some Q-tips and things like that, but I found that when I was doing the cleanup with like water and things like that right away, see how that's coming off in a chunk? Like, that's perfect. So when that piece is more completely dry, that's how it's going to come off, because it's so much thinner than everything else is, or should be, I should say that, because, you know, who knows, maybe there was like a big gap in this center part, and so you got more paint stuck inside of that gap. But when I was doing the things with like the Q-tip and the water, I felt like it didn't give as crisp of a design, I guess. And like the water kind of bled into the paint. So I'm gonna mess up that other side by doing this, because the top part of the clip is in there. But this side, way less cleanup to be able to have to do. I have also tried using acetone, because acetone is something I have, and it will get rid of quicker things if need be. But hopefully this would have given you enough different options on how to be able to complete it. And the brush, I kind of opened it up like this, and I used my thinning shears to cut it and make it be a little bit wider, or break it up more, because it's this outside edge that if it's too solid, you're not going to get good strokes. And so this is a crappy synthetic brush versus my other natural hair brushes that I have from nail art people, or I guess maybe shouldn't say like natural hair, because supposedly like Klinsky brushes and things like that are not allowed anymore for animal cruelty things. So they're just a higher quality synthetic, where instead of this being blunt cut, they're all at little points. And so it does make a difference as you're dragging them out. And I personally prefer it from a nail art or artist perspective. You have to work a lot less to do something with that than you do with this. Like, as I'm going through with my fingers, I wouldn't have to separate it out as much if it were to be better hairs that are inside of here. So this is a super long video. I hope you guys learned something and it didn't completely bore you. If there is something that you want me to show that I did not show, please let me know, and I will try to follow this and comment as much as possible. Have a good night, day, breakfast, lunch. Bye.